Sheriff William Barnes had one tiny problem, well, more like a 6'2" problem, but he would deal with that soon enough. Taking one last look at the cards in his hand, he threw a note on top of the coins, piled in the middle of the table. "I'll see your $5 and raise you $5. He glared at the other men seated around the table, daring them to comment on the fact he hadn't put down any real coin. The men shifted uneasily, all but one, Nick Graves. The sheriff had a gambling addiction, often looking the other way when it came to the high-stake poker games, cockfights, etc. that were run out of the back of the saloon. He would make huge bets taking large losses, and because of his position, his debts were rarely called in. One night he crossed the wrong man, Nick Graves, a gambler by nature and a gambler by trade. The eldest of 8 brothers and no stranger to a real fight. Nick was not going to let the sheriff get away with not paying his debt. Sheriff Barnes wasn't going to let some stranger to his town change the rules on him now. And late one night, under a moonless sky, he shot Nick Graves in the back. Nick lived just long enough to have a message sent to his brother, Edward Graves. Sheriff Barnes, his chair tilted back, and a chew of tobacco in his cheek, leaned forward slightly to throw a note on the pile of coins in the middle of the table. He heard a gravelly voice behind him say, "Sheriff," in a snide tone, and as he turned to see who was speaking, he looked down the barrel of a 6-shooter pointed at his head. Drunk and slow to react, he reached for his own pistol strapped to his leg, but before he could draw, blood blossomed from the new hole in his forehead. Edward Graves stood stoically while a noose was thrown around his neck by the angry mob of men, determined to dispense frontier justice. A booming voice shouted, "Stop!" and a well-dressed man strode through the crowd to stand in front of Graves just in time to prevent the rope from being thrown over the nearby tree branch. Ezekiel Talbot, and this man interrupted the lynching of Edward Graves that day. Talbot offered Graves a deal he couldn't refuse: become the marshal, keep the town clean, keep his life. Graves could pick his own men, do things his own way. But one day, Graves would need to repay his debt.